All right, folks, it's 1:30. We will call to order the Cumberland County Finance meeting, and we will begin with the roll call.
Commissioner Nieder.
Here.
Commissioner Fauci.
I'm here.
Commissioner Eichelberger.
Great. We will open the floor up to public comments if there are any to be made at this time. Is there anyone showing online, Lauren? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move forward then to the approval of the minutes of August 28th.
Oh, I'll move to approve those.
I'll second.
Thank you. It's moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next up, Justin Smith with the approval and discussion and possible approval of Vision Government Solutions.
Thanks.
You've got your team there with you, Cathy, Melissa.
We only have 10 minutes, so I'm gonna talk very much. Okay, so we'll talk about the goals of the refresh you of the goals of the project. Talk about the beta system that we just had delivered from the vendor, and go through the timeline and how what the change order really means with the timeline. So with the goals, we are looking to modernize our CAMA system. Our CAMA system has been stagnant for some time, and it's our computer assisted mass appraisal system. So when it says mass appraisal, there is a lot of mass there. So we're looking to streamline our assessment workflows, really to have a lot of new modern digital tools. And we had a presentation, I believe, a year ago. We came in front of you for approval of the contract and the project, and now we have the beta, and this is what the beta looks like. So this is just a screenshot of the building we're currently sitting in, and on the screen you can see the parcel ID number, the PIN, the owner, the address, a lot of other property information, and then down the left side of the screen, you might be able to read that. But we're looking at the account information screen. There is an owner and deed information screen, assessment history, exemptions, value change, notice history, just goes on and on, clean and green, building permits. Each one of those screens has just as much information as the screen you're looking at. There's up to 900 possible fields per record, and there are 115,000 records in the county. So we're dealing with a very complex system, a lot of complex data. I work with the 911 computer-aided dispatch system, the CAD system, and that's comparably complex. So it's a very heavyweight system. And the CAMA system is an important system because the valuations that CAMA justifies and defines are then multiplied against the mill rates, which forms half the county's revenue. So this is an important system we have. All right, which brings us to, how do we go from the beta system to go live? So here's our timeline. And we had a contract signed on November last year. The project kicked off May this year. And we're hoping to go live as a county the very first full week of 2025. So right there at down at the bottom, very bottom, is county go live in 2025.
Justin, were they behind on delivering the beta?
No.
Okay.
They're right on schedule for delivering the beta, and they've been on schedule. Vision's been a good customer, or they've been a good customer. They've been a good vendor. They've been a good vendor. They've been working with us, and that's really why we're here to talk about this change order, because they've been working with us on to align our calendars a little bit. So to just give you some background about why we're here to ask for this change order signature. The project was kicked off on May 22nd. And if I could just go to the contract, this is what the contract looked like. So what we have here is, make it a little bit bigger. So there's basically these milestone tasks to be delivered. And in the contract, it says, this task will take 5 weeks. This task will take 2 weeks. This task will take 1 day. This task will take 7 weeks. So what they did on when we had our go live, or when we had our kickoff, so when we had our kickoff, they just basically took those weeks for each task and just added that after the kickoff date, right? So the original plan that they gave us was for a go live of 11/26 of this year. And, Cathy immediately started raising her hand and saying, I'm not sure that date works. So we worked with Vision. They were very supportive and cooperative. They immediately agreed, like once we started to dig into this and exactly how operationally it would work better if we were to go live at the beginning of the year. That way the new system wouldn't interfere with billing, which is important. Tax billing is important. And it's a complicated system, so we want to complete tax billing in the old system for this year and then start fresh in the next year. So that's why we're here. They wanted us to sign a change order to make that official. And
Cathy, you did not want to spend your Thanksgiving in here with this project.
Nope. just Christmas and New Year's.
Oh, that's included too, yeah.
So we can answer any questions, but that's pretty much the basis of it, to accommodate tax billing and get that finalized with the current year and just start the new year fresh.
So we're confident that when we start the new year fresh, we're good to go. It's going to coordinate with billing. It's all going to work out.
So far, we've hit every milestone, and we've gotten good deliverables from our vendor, and things look good. We're working through the beta. It's an involved process. The beta looks good, but there's lots of little tiny details. We're dealing with 900 fields and 115,000 records. It's not just a one-to-one copy and paste.
Right.
So we're working through that process right now, and Vision seems to be a good partner for that.
Justin, with all of those fields, is it the intent of your office and Cathy, your group over there, Mel, you included, to start loading in more information in the system? And is it all publicly available? Because most people, I'm looking at just the tax mapper that doesn't contain all of that. Will that information that's shared with the public change, and are you looking to store more information in there?
Well, to answer the second question first, we are looking to improve the products that are shared with the public. Right now, the way we have Courthouse Online, which is how we share our property record cards. We're gonna have more control over that in the future with this new product. We're going to be testing that by the end of the year to figure out how we can get that maybe to interface with the property mapper, so somebody can just click on a parcel in the property mapper and get their property record card information through the property mapper. That's our goal. And as far as collecting more information,
yeah, I believe we will be able to. There's different, from 2000, when the previous camera was put up, we didn't have all the new bells and whistles that we have now, as far as a house style, basement area, finished area, all of that. We are going to be able to add that into the new system and update it. And that would be a part of an ongoing correction.
Yeah, there's fields in there that other counties use that we don't use, but we'll learn, what do they use that for, and maybe, acquire some of that stuff.
Yeah, because it is looking more like an appraisal system than with more data points as it relates to the value then that's established. So
It looks like that, the beta I thought looked really nice, and it's a relief to not see all of those dashed lines in there, right? To demonstrate the property.
I know it's been a long project, so
Yes.
thank you. And I didn't mean to tease you about your holidays. And I know you've given much more of your time to this and making it successful, but it's going to be incredibly important to the county. So. I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions either.
Okay. Thank you. We will
entertain a motion for an approval to the contract addendum.
I'll second.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
That may have been less than 10 minutes. Yeah. Did you want to make any other comments to make it
We'll
good
see.
use of your time?
We'll roll it over for our next presentation.
All righty. Next up, we have the Cumberland Area Economic Development Corporation update. Janet Henderson and Kristen Rowe. And Greg, sorry, was it
Yes,
listed?
yeah, Yeah, I was watching, just taking all the. Didn't want to, I didn't want to. Can you reach? All right.
Oh, they may need some help on that. Can you?
It's thinking. Yeah, it's thinking.
Well, I'll just start while we wait. Good afternoon. It's nice to be here. It's been a while. We have not been here since February. So we're excited to provide an update on what's been happening at KDIC since that time, and also to give you some thoughts about what our plans are going forward. And to start off on the economic development side of things, I wanted to introduce Greg Welker, our Director of Economic Development. Greg came from DCD and has been with us since July, since July, and has been doing a great job. We're really excited to have him on board. And I'm going to let him start off with the economic development report.
Thanks, Shannon. Good afternoon. So just to provide some updates on what KDIC's been up to since our last presentation, we've continued to develop strategies and engage.
I did that. It didn't go. You're the IT director.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. We've continued to engage with state and federal partners to educate clients, businesses, as well as the real estate collaborative within our own organization to pursue funding opportunities. We were not successful in obtaining a Business in Our Sites grant. However, Janet was able to meet with DCD, and we were encouraged to apply for the new PA Sites program. It's a program DCD launched a pilot for that last year. We expect it to very closely mirror the Business in Our Sites program, but it will also be run through DCD, just has the bonus of not being under the Commonwealth Financing Authority. So we do expect that might move a little quicker in terms of decisions. We completed all of our required visits for the Engage program. We're just waiting on this coming fiscal year's contract information so we can begin those calls. Continuing to engage with KDIC in the 9-county region for the development and implementation of the comprehensive economic development strategy. We have re-engaged with the USDA. We do have some of their funds, and we're continuing to use those. The one grant that we actually have in our pipeline, we're hoping to be able to build in a USDA grant. It's one project with 2 notes. So we'll be using some of our own local funding as well as the USDA funds. We've also met with the Community First Fund. They have some different financial programs that we think will prove beneficial as the second tranche of the State Small Business Credit Initiative program releases their funds to the CDFIs and CEDOs around the state. We were able to close one CDBG grant in Shippensburg for the acquisition of a small business. We've also engaged with 30 separate business entities. Majority of those were early stages, so we did refer them to the Small Business Development Center down in Shippensburg to get some assistance with writing their business plan and developing their financial projections. In the same vein of working with those external partners that can help bring projects to the county, but also engage with CADIC to help vet the needs of those organizations. We've been meeting with the Small Business Development Center, the Ben Franklin Technology Partnership. We are actively working with the Greater Harrisburg Association of Realtors to do a walking tour of various sites in Carlisle Borough to showcase properties that could be on the market for some commercial projects in the coming years. Actively engaged with all of our chambers. We're attending their Mega Mixer event next week. We have good representation that will be there for the organization. And we're also responding to solicitations that come from the Office of International Business Development and the Governor's Action Team.
Great, one question if I may. So you mentioned about with GHAR doing the walking tour for Carlisle.
Yes.
Is there a reason that's constrained just to Carlisle?
They try to move their tours around, and I don't know that they've done one in Carlisle recently. But we do have a couple of sites that we're working on through REC, the Tyco site, Coon property that are adjoining. We also have, we'll get to it later in the presentation, but we've signed a sales agreement. We're in the due diligence period for the Frog Switch property. So they reached out to us knowing that those projects were in the pipeline. So they're anxious to kind of see what the plans are for those sites.
And one additional, it's a couple hour time frame. So they've done some in Lancaster and York and Harrisburg. They're trying to get around. So I would suspect we'll do more in Cumberland, and move beyond Carlisle at that point. But they slate a couple hour tour, so we couldn't really do a whole lot more than just Carlisle.
You mean you can't get a bus together?
We may need Flemington for Carlisle van, so
We can find a bus.
So we have gone live with Presta. It's a software that we're utilizing to process our loans. So we have our first loan applications in there now. That project with the 2 notes, they submitted through there. We're hoping to get that on the agenda for this month's Finance Committee meeting. And in a future update, we also anticipate being able to process all of the payments through that system. So it will truly be a one-stop shop, cradle to grave servicing of all of our loans. Our loan specialist, Griffin, and I have been meeting with a number of lenders since I've been here, and he's been engaged with them his entire time with CADIC. So we're continuing to meet with those lenders, and we're starting to see the fruits of that labor come to fruition. That project is something that was actually referred to us by one of our lending partners. Janet and I met with the Federal Reserve Bank last week to talk about data and other information that might be important to them as they do research for population and development trends across the Commonwealth, as well as information on workforce development. So we're anxious to see what they bring back to us. We've also met with the EC Finance Corporation of Lancaster. They are the region's 504 loan program administrator for the Small Business Administration. So we're eager to start working with them on some of the larger projects here in Cumberland County. Since February, if you'll remember last year, the local share account category 4 program was expanded to include Cumberland County because of the opening of the Parks Casino. We submitted 5 applications as an organization, and 2 of those projects did receive funding. We are still waiting decisions on the 13 statewide LSA applications. Hoping, fingers crossed, no agendas come out, but the Commonwealth Financing Authority does have a meeting scheduled for September 17th. So we're hoping there might be some good news there. If not, it would likely be on the next scheduled CFA board meeting, which is currently slated for November, but we'll keep an eye on that. We did receive 7 applications for this year's Category 4 program, and the statewide program just opened up on the 1st, and we'll be pushing that out to clients and partners in the county here in the next week or so. Redevelopment Assistance Capital Program, we're still working with 20 projects that are in various stages of development. Those projects cumulatively total over $20 million in funding coming to Cumberland County for those developments. We submitted 9 projects for the 2024 round of RACP, and we're aware of 21 projects in total that were submitted in Cumberland County. On the workforce development front, we've met with multiple workforce development organizations, PA CareerLink, South Central PA Works, and the Employment Skills Center. We did work with CareerLink to promote their summer internship program, and we're actively working with the Employment Skills Center to further build out a brownfield jobs training program for which they received a grant through the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. We're continuing to attend Perkins meetings with the local career and tech centers, and we continue to work with Capital Region Economic Development Corporation in regional workforce initiatives. Some upcoming events. Next week, we are presenting at Rep. Kutz's grant seminar on Tuesday the 10th. To talk about some grants that we have available directly through CADIC, as well as some that we can access at the state level. And we'll be partnering on that with CREDIC, since we do have the ability to provide some of the same resources. We are going to be reconvening the Cumberland, New York area local defense group. Hasn't met in a few years, but we are reconvening next Thursday. And as of today, we have 17 confirmed attendees. So we're very excited to get all of that group back together. The economic development staff and Janet will be attending the Pennsylvania Economic Development Association conference. It's up in Erie, and that's October 9th through the 11th. And we are actively planning November economic development event. We're still kind of working some details out, but we will let you know what those details are as soon as they become available.
So I'm going to talk about REC, but before I get into that, one thing that we missed mentioning, and this is my fault, was the CEDO status, the Comprehensive Economic Development Organization, Certified Economic Development Organization status with the State Department of DCED, Department of Community and Economic Development. We are still certified. We have maintained that for 3 years standing. So we will continue. That's what allows us to apply for other grants and things through DCED. So grants and loans. So it's a really important piece of what we do. Jumping to the Real Estate Collaborative, just a few updates. The former Tyco property, since we were here in February, we did receive and it has been posted, the environmental covenant for Tyco for housing and other type developments. We also have a signed sales agreement that is contingent upon them receiving financing for some housing projects there. So that is almost across the finish line. We also are negotiating a sales agreement for the former Kuhn property, which is hopefully we're going to see that before the end of this year. That also has the environmental covenant secured, so that is complete, which makes that property more valuable, of course. On the Frog Switch property, We have signed both a letter of intent to purchase, and last week we did sign an agreement to acquire the property with a due diligence period of 9 months. You will hear more about that here soon, but that is moving fast across the finish line. We do have a commitment from EPA to continue with remediation on the site. We also have applications in for local share agreement and RACP grants for the site. We are looking at PA sites, as Greg mentioned, for the site as well. We are taking tours on the sites. We're taking legislators to the Frog Switch site. We mentioned the GAR tour. They are interested in seeing the Frog Switch site. Work continues at the Frog Switch site to remove equipment and buildings. So it's important that we schedule these tours with the Frog Switch folks in the next 9 months. But I was going to suggest if any of the 3 of you are interested in taking a tour, we would be happy to take you out and walk you around.
Janet, just when you have them scheduled, if you could let us know in the office, maybe we can slip in on, so you don't have to do a special
Sure.
just for us, if you're already scheduling that. One question I had on the Tyco property, and you can't really speak to the Coon property at this time, but was the Tyco sales agreement, is that for affordable housing?
It is.
Okay, thank you. I thought that's what the case was.
Moving on to a quick update on the Alliance program at Cathy. We do have our golf outing coming up on the 18th. Would love to have any one of the 3 of you or all 3 of you show up to meet our folks out on the course. And we have reconvened the membership and engagement committee that is working with the Alliance. We're happy to share that Carol Kilko has agreed to chair that committee and work with us on that. So that's good news. We do have, we are planning a diamond level event, perhaps for this fall, but definitely in the spring and maybe both. We have had some recent lunch and learns planned. We had a recent one with McConkey Insurance held on August 29th, where we had 10 people in the room. The annual Alliance or Economic Development event will be happening in November. Greg and I are planning that as we speak. You'll all be invited to those as well. Moving on to administration and some of the things that are happening within CADIC with regard to the board and other administrative functions. We wanted to thank you for your support in helping us get 3 new board members appointed to the CADIC board. We do have a full complement of board members. 2 of those positions, you may recall, were created as a result of the change in the bylaws last year. So we're excited to have a full complement, not only of board members, but also officers on the board. And we appreciate your help with that. Staff recruitment, we do want to introduce Julie Caranda here to the left. She is our new finance and human resource specialist. She joined our team back in April and has done a tremendous job of keeping us moving forward with banks and banking, getting signatures and things that we need in place for all of that, as well as reporting, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. I mentioned and introduced Economic Development Director Greg Welker. He joined the team in July, formerly with DCED, and working on several grants that we are applying for. So he has been a great asset, and he's adapting very well to the position. And we recently hired Economic Development Grant Specialist Ramina Altez Nunez. She started in August. And she is fitting in very well in the last month and she'll be working on our local share accounts as well as the RACPs and other grants on behalf of nonprofits and for-profits. That leaves us with only one open position at this time, and that is our Economic Development Workforce Manager. This position and its role will be one of the topics of discussion at our upcoming board workshop later in September. So with that, we will have a full complement of staff on board. We are doing a lot of cross-training and professional development to ensure that if someone leaves, we have backup, as well as to provide professional development to those staff, so that they're not caught in a specific position but can grow beyond. For example, a grant specialist learning how to do credit analysis for loans. So if we get overwhelmed in loans, we have someone that can pitch in. Our loan specialist being cross-trained on grants, so when it's push time for grants, they can pitch in. We are doing some team building activities, and we continue to update our employee handbook and policies to keep up with the changes in the times. And Julie's been working a lot on that. Some finance updates. We have been completing our quarterly and annual loan reporting. We have a lot of different programs that we have received funding for, whether it comes from the federal government, state government, or the county itself. All of our reporting is up to date, and all of our loans are current. So we're happy to report that. We have applied for additional funding through Tyco, BIOS, Business in Our Sites grants. There were some things that were missed over the last several years that were eligible expenses, and Julie dug in and we got those submitted. That grant closed at the end of June. So we got those funds, those requests in, invoices in, and we expect to receive some funding. We also did receive on the Tyco BIOS loan some additional funds for eligible expenses. I mentioned that our bank accounts have all been updated with new staff and board members, signers. So that's all been taken care of. And we are spending a lot of time working on our budget for 2025. We expect that that will be approved by the end of the year. We're hoping in November. And with that, Kristen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. So I have a lot packed in here since we haven't presented to you all since February, so I'm just going to try my best to hit the highlights. I want to start here with our tourism grants. Our team's been really hard at work at these since they launched the end of 2023. Just this year, our team has met with almost 50 potential applicants, and I think the statistic that I'm really proud of our team for is since bringing these tourism grants back in August of last year, we've been able to award 1.1 million in grant funding, and comparing that to the 10 years of grant funding we did before was at 1.9 million. So we've really been able to make an impact with those grants in the target areas we have. And then I just wanted to throw in here a lovely testimonial from one of our most recent grants, which was the Talking Breads expansion project.
Kristen, was the $500,000 in ARPA money that was given for that in the 1.1? Is that
Yes.
fully you deployed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course. So before I get into the rest of the presentation, I just wanted to provide a little context for this year. So we've really invested in some software and some new resources that our organization has never really been able to utilize or take advantage of before. And you'll hear me kind of talk about them as I go on. One of them was an investment in visitor tracking, better visitor demographics. One of them was PR media tracking, and another one was an estimated economic impact tool. And we really tried to find industry standards, companies that a lot of our sister agencies use. So we knew we were getting the best bang for our buck with those. But I wanted to kind of set that because I'll mention that as we go on. So I want to start with advertising. We are right in the middle of our advertising campaign for 2024. So I wanted to give you a little strategy on how we got there and then show you some of the creative so you could see what's currently out in the market. So looking at locations, again, we invested in new software this year that helped provide better data. So we really wanted to target areas that we thought would be a good fit, but ones that we could also make an impact on and afford. So that led us to Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, Washington, DC, and then Cumberland County and our surrounding region. So we determined those as our strategic locations, utilizing some of the data and the bullets represented there. The next step in that strategy was coming up with our messaging. So our goal entering this year was to really grow and build off of the Weekend Easy, Weekend Getaway campaign that we've been promoting since 2019. And it was nice to see that the data kind of reinforced those decisions. It was coming up that we were still having a high trip volume on the weekends and also people making short trips, 1 to 2 nights. So using all of that historical context, we really feel that we are the perfect weekend easy getaway for people in the metro areas surrounding us. So from there, we developed creative and copy and content that would appeal to a wide audience in those markets, that also highlighted the unique selling points here in our destination. And I wanted to just give you guys some coming soon information in each section. So while we're in the middle of 2024, we're still starting to plan the strategy for next year's 2025 advertising campaign. So we're working even farther out this year to plan for next year. And also we're planning next year to do a brand lift study based on this year's media buy. So that's a research project that will come back and say, how much of an impact did we actually make in these markets? Was the investment worth it? Is the dollar amount we're investing really getting us a bang for a buck? So I just wanted to show some creative. I mentioned we've been doing Weekend Getaway, Weekend Easy since 2019. So this just was kind of the creative evolution over the past few years. We wanted people to still recognize the messaging and the branding, but give it a fresh new look. So that's kind of where we started to where we landed. I mentioned Pittsburgh was a new market we were testing out this year. One of the ways we were doing that was a combination of in-person advertising and then paid social advertising. So this is showing you some transit ads that people in Pittsburgh will see. And then if they are on the bus or near the bus and have their location tracking turned on, they will also be served paid social advertising, kind of retargeting, redirecting them, reminding them that they've seen this messaging before. We're doing something similar with Carvertise. We've used this vendor before successfully in the past for our beer trail through a grant that we got through PLCB. And it worked out really well. So we decided to try it with a bigger brand just for the whole destination. So these cars are also driving around Pittsburgh. And similarly, there's materials inside the cars. There's obviously branding on the outside, and then using that same location tracking. If people are in the cars or near the cars, they'll be served these retargeting ads through social media or digital platforms. Expedia has continued to be a good outlet for us. We target these advertisements to people that are actively researching hotels in Pennsylvania. So they'll continue to see these, it'll follow them around. If they're on Expedia, then they're on other sites, they'll continue to see our digital advertising. And the exciting thing about Expedia is that they provide a level of tracking that a lot of our outlets don't provide. So just looking at our buy for June and July, we can see that the people that saw our ads led to 1,600 room nights booked in our county. And most of them were, again, supporting that 1 to 2 night weekend and multi-adult rooms. So people traveling either with friends or couples traveling.
Kristen, I thought that one of the statistics that was given at that presentation was that the largest share of visitors come here to see family and friends.
The largest, are you talking about the tourism event we did in the summer? So that specific research project was looking at people that have seen our advertising in the past and recalled the advertising. And the number one reason people say that bring them to this area is visiting friends or family.
Okay. Is that, so, which would make sense on some level. If you're coming home to see family and friends, you might go to Expedia to do a,
sure,
hotel room or an Airbnb or something like that, so.
Yeah, and we're trying to really do as many multifaceted things we can for all the different types of visitors we know we get, while not trying to stretch them too thin. So I think this is a good outlet for both types of people. A lot of people that come here to visit friends and family are also coming to visit college students because we have so many universities here. So those people are staying in hotels too and doing research for things like that as well. That ties nicely actually into this slide too. So we don't just focus all of our advertising in those large metro areas. We really try to do justice here locally as well for not just Cumberland County, but our surrounding region. This helps drive traffic, not just to hotels, but to our community events, to our restaurants, to our shops, to our attractions. And we want to support those people that are hosting friends and family so that they know where to take them. They can experience things while they're here, extend their visit, and become repeat visitors as well, not just to visit friends and family, but to also do some exciting things while they're here. This year, we again participated in the State Tourism Office's co-op advertising program. This is a great way to leverage our dollars for even more advertising investment. So these are some examples. With the advice from our ad agency, we decided to do billboards, streaming TV, Pinterest, and transit ads in Philly and DC. So these are all slightly co-branded with the state tourism logo, and they pick a variety of outlets and locations that we can then go in and select from. But the match makes our dollars go a lot farther than we would be able to do just on our own. Switching away from advertising, I wanted to include, I usually bring you all some lodging data to review. You'll see we had a great April and May, and June and July, we're kind of on track with what we're seeing, not just here regionally, but in the state and across the country. From what we're hearing from Smith Travel Research and our other partners, and just what everyone's been talking about, is because of economic issues and cost of living, summer travel is down across the board, not just here, but in the entire country and in Pennsylvania. And I think the takeaway here is that we tend to fluctuate less than even the counties surrounding us. We tend to just kind of hold steady. So I'd say while we were down this summer, we were kind of right in the middle of the pack, holding steady with the state's overall data. Looking at our trails, our beer trail signups were up this year compared to last year, which is exciting because that was our first trail. We've had that trail around for many years. So to continue to see people utilizing it is exciting. We did see the ice cream trail surpass the beer trail though in our most participated experience trail, I think because it's family friendly. It's a little bit more easily accessible for more people. So with that data, and kind of looking into next year, we're deciding to really focus in on our 3 key trails that have provided the most ROI for our efforts. So next year, we're really going to focus on coffee and chocolate, beer and ice cream, and really put some more promotion and focus behind those, have more events, more contests, more giveaways, to really invest in those trails, those experiences, and those partners that choose to participate with us. Switching over to the tourism website, we continue to see increases year over year there for engagement and traffic. I did want to note that next year we're looking not to completely redo the website, but just to give it a refresh, a new look to kind of match the new look and feel of our advertising. And we're also looking to use a trip building and itinerary tool next year on our website that we're excited about. That'll allow people to not only build their own trip, but it provides the mapping. So I think one feedback we've always gotten from people not from this area is our county is much bigger than they think it is. Our towns are sprawled out farther than they think. So this will provide more realistic ways for people to understand what all they want to do and how long it will take them to get to all the things they want to see.
Kristen, I just want to jump back to the whole trail thing.
Yeah.
You don't have to go back on slides, but just, is there any research on when these things kind of just have seen their time?
Sure, yeah. I think we continue to monitor that. We have a lot of metrics and key performance data we look at for each of our trails. And I think that's why you're seeing us really want to zero in on those 3 that are really impactful. We've been trying to do some fall ones in the past or some family friendly ones in the past, and those just weren't performing at the rate we felt comfortable with. So we're not afraid to cut it loose if it needs to, but those three continue to see impact, not just locally, but also people coming from farther away to visit for those.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just feel like I've heard about them for a long time. But,
Well,
you know,
I understand, and that's why I'm
fatigue
saying.
of program. You
For
know?
sure, and even for the beer trail, that's why I was excited to show 16% increase year over year, people signing up for the beer trail. People still are engaging with those. I will say that I will toot our own horn for the marketing team that I think we've been ahead of the game when it comes to trails. We were one of the first to use Bandwango, the platform we use for trails. We've been used as a case study for other visitors bureaus on how to best utilize their services. Our staff was actually just on a panel for them to show other visitors bureaus how best to utilize their services. So I think we've been in the trail game a little longer than a lot of others as well.
Just don't become the oh gosh, what is it? The bride destination like Nashville.
Fair, the Bachelorette. Yeah. If we see that wave coming, if we start having pedal bikes down the streets, we'll raise that flag. Yeah. Looking at our sales efforts, so this is another investment we made this year in an economic impact calculator through Destinations International. They're really the industry standard for this tool. And it was able to give us data like this first bullet. So we've had 3 sales grants approved this year, and the ROI is expected to be over 2 million and bring over 3,000 room nights combined between those 3 grants. So that's really helping us determine what level of grant funding is appropriate for an event to understand how much it's going to bring us back in return. And then I wanted to skip down to coming soon, really trying to work more with our partners. Our sales department at the Visitors Bureau is 1 person, so he can only do so much. So we're really having him work with as many of our hotel, lodging, meeting, venue, attraction partners to kind of expand our reach at some of these trade shows and on these sales trips. So we plan these sales trips and bring our partners with us. We're also looking to make a big investment and through time at American Bus Association. That is happening in Philadelphia. Sometimes it happens much farther away. So we want to make sure we take advantage of that being local for the country here in February. Switching over to content and public relations efforts, I mentioned the other investment we made was in PR media tracking to kind of gain better insight into the articles being written about us. It's really easy to miss. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. And this software actually gives us a dollar amount. So if we were to have paid for every article written about the destination in Katic, it would have been worth $5 million. With this software, there was a huge increase in media impressions because it was able to track so much more than we were able to track on our own. We've hosted 22 FAM stands for familiarization tours. That means hosting a travel writer, showing them throughout the area and then them writing stories about us. And that increased a huge number of stories as well. Looking ahead for PR efforts, where our staff is attending 2 travel writer conferences to pitch over 100 writers to work towards bringing them in next year. And we're also working on an agreement with Chick to Chick podcast, which is a local podcast to tell Cumberland County stories. For our content and campaigns, I was just going to focus on the coming soon. So we are working with Relic to redesign, do a new design for our visitors guide. This is kind of just a template of what that new look could be. We're also launching this month a new series called Discover Local Stories from Cumberland Valley. So this will be a better way to feature individual businesses with short interviews, and that'll be on the tourism site. And then we're also bringing back our holiday gift guide. It's going to be formatted a little bit differently this year, but that one's always a big promotion for our local shops that they really appreciate. And we also work with our chambers on this because they help with Small Business Saturday. Looking at social media, I will not make you read through all these numbers, but the story is that we continue to grow engagement. Instagram new followers was down slightly this year, but our focus on that platform was to increase our number of views and engagement on that platform. So the people that are following are really looking at the content and engaging with it. And then just to finish up here on all of our marketing efforts for economic development, again, continue to see increases on social media for economic development and increases in stories and public relations. The most exciting thing I have to share is that cumberlandbusiness.com, our economic development website, launched as of 11:30 this morning.
I was going to
So-
look at it before we
Yes,
came
you
in.
may look
just
at
to
it.
See if it
I was
up.
checking every 30 minutes because I wanted to be able to tell you all that it was up and running. So our staff will obviously be spending the next couple weeks going through that with every website launch. There's kinks you got to work out, little things we need to fix. So we'll be working through that. We're also planning a media buy for the remainder of the year focused on business services and driving traffic to the new website. With Greg and his team on board now, it's been much easier to kind of brainstorm new ways to advertise our economic development services. So we'll be looking at doing that for the remainder of this year, but also plans for next year. I believe that's it.
So the one data point up there was 400% increase in economic development stories. How many were there?
I think
Do
I
you know?
have that. I think I do. Give me 1 second.
Because if it was, 0 to.
Sure. I know it wasn't 0, but I know I have it here somewhere. We certainly usually have way more. Oh, here we go. ED stories last year to this year, 7 to 35.
Okay.
And tourism was up from
So, Kristen,
20,
you're right.
21 to 76.
So that content, is your staff writing that content or are you pulling that down? Some of the different content that you're putting up for that or no?
For both. So for the public relations stories that we're counting, some of them are press releases or direct pitching that our internal team is doing. And some of them are just mostly local. If we get mentioned in a story that's sometimes things like rec, like the Sentinel will run a story about Tyco and mention us, and our software catches that as well.
Back on the trail question, since we've been doing that for a while. And obviously, we're still tracking people, so it's still working. So and you're monitoring that, you say you're checking participation rate. So
Yep.
do you have a method for evaluating, your your effort to innovate on that, to find new potential trails? Is there a method to that? How often is that done? I know we've added some.
Yeah, I think we were really kind of in ramp up mode the last few years. We started with Beer Trail. I think we did Beer Trail really well on its own for a year or two.
When did
And
it start?
that started, it might have been 2017. It's been a while. And then we did the ice cream trail next as kind of a counter piece because we wanted to support the businesses that weren't breweries and we wanted a more family friendly kind of counterpiece to that trail. And then we've kind of been in an experimenting phase, I say, for the last years. That's why we did coffee and chocolate, which was actually a direct request of our partners. We have partners calling us saying, I want to be on a trail, I want to be included. So how can we develop those? And I will say the one thing I forgot to mention is we are looking for ways to use Bandwango. I mentioned the trail building software to add trails that'll be easier for us just to kind of set them and forget them, if you will. So we're entering agreement with the Historic Wayside Markers, the group that runs those, to put that on there as a self-guided tour that people could follow along with their phone and go see all the wayside markers. And once that's in the system, we can kind of just let that one ride. There
As
would not be,
opposed to the ones you sign up for.
as opposed to the ones you sign up for and get prizes and have to, they would just be, and we're seeing history as a really good way to utilize some of those.
So on those, since we've added various ones, do we have any way of tracking? I'm sure we have a way of doing it, but to what extent are we measuring how many are repeat visitors
Mhm.
and how many are overlap? So say they came here and did a beer trail, and maybe they want to do the next trail. Or
Sure.
are we doing people doing multiple trails? Do we have people coming back for the same trail?
Yeah, we do have all of that. I do not have it with me, but I would say Beer Trail's pulling from the farthest away. People are coming and spending multiple days here to do the Beer Trail. The one anecdotal story I always like to share is we had two brothers, one in DC, one in New York. Their yearly trip was to come here and do the Beer Trail because it was a nice meeting point. And I think that one just obviously lends itself to spending the night, staying a little longer. And I think a lot of the other trails we've been doing have a little bit bigger local regional pull just in nature. But again, I think that's still important because these are smaller businesses that normally could get overshadowed by some of the bigger attractions and hotels that we're usually promoting. So it's a way to give them some business and some love.
Kristen, the one thing that some of us, and I don't know if they're finalized, some promotional items. Are you doing anything around trails? Because it looked like a lot of hiking with
Oh,
actual
absolutely.
trail.
Yes,
trails?
absolutely. So a lot of the content on Visit Cumberland Valley is outdoors trail focused. I think that's where we also could see some of this software being utilized to help people understand how to get around our state parks. Cell service is not great at some of our state parks, so that would be a hurdle we'd have to overcome. But we still invest a lot of time and resources in printed collateral for hiking trails, rack cards for our top trails, and just tons of content online, because a lot of people that we're targeting in DC and Philadelphia, that might be their first time out on a trail, and we want to support them and have them understand how best to get around those areas. So there's a lot of, I'd say, helpful how-to content that we develop for that.
Yeah, but because to your point of downloading before you go sometimes is helpful.
Yeah.
But we have so many wonderful opportunities here, and I think that it's one of the things that is very attractive to particularly younger travelers.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of other partners in our county that are doing great things with outdoors that we partner with. We've done brochures and for the Yellow Breeches and Conduit Creeks in partnership with county planning. We work really well with the South Mountain Partnership and work on some of their initiatives on trail connections. So we're also trying to help build trails and trail connections while also promoting what we have at the same time.
And then there may be more stuff coming that to be available if the Conservancy has some potential land that would be Cumberland and York.
Yeah, yes, that would be a great asset.
The business site, does it still include any site selector tools or directions toward site selector information?
I would say we have content on there aimed at site selectors. I think we're linking out to site selection tools that we don't have to invest and keep up to date with. We attempted that years ago and it was just hard to keep our arms around. And now we direct them to the state's version or the county's version. I'm forgetting which, but
So we don't actually get any measurement back then on how those are performing for us.
it would just be traffic to the site and then people going out for that resource. Yeah.
Kristen, when you had mentioned about the markers, the historical markers, that would include then if it were properties that people could actually go through, like an old historic tavern, does it go into those sorts of things, like the Peace Church?
Yes, if it was a wayside marker, the ones we're doing right now are just in Carlisle, but if it was a marker outside of a location you could enter and visit, we would absolutely have all of that on there.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that could be really valuable for people as well.
Absolutely. I think promoting history has continued to be one thing we want to really help shepherd along. A lot of history happened in Cumberland County, and we have some amazing resources that you can go experience it, but some other places are a little more hidden. So I think any way we can help with signage or tools that allow you to understand what you're looking at is something we can make an impact on.
Just with our proximity to Gettysburg and
that too, yeah.
nice.
That helps too.
All right. Are there any other questions for Kristen or Janet or Greg at this time?
I don't have any, thank you.
All right. Is there any other business to come before the board at this time? Hearing none, entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.